Year in review. Just You Run Marathon. So I'm reopening my mother and my wife's school. Year in review. I am reopening not in our neighborhood down here, not for Florida, not for the southeast region of the country, for the whole entire globe. I'm reopening a school that my mama started in Berrien Springs, Michigan. The year was about, I would say, 1980. 1981, my mom opened a school in Berrien Springs, Michigan. And me and my sister, Terry Lynn Leggett, were the students. And when we moved to Chicago in 1999, my wife opened an identical school for our two children, Xavier and Deja Leggett. And it was always my mom's dream for the school to be a world-renowned school of the performance arts and the fine arts. It was always mom's goal. Once again, my mom started the school in 1980 because the Christian Seventh-day Adventist schools in Berrien Springs, Michigan were not up to par, were not up to standard. Private Seventh-day Adventist Christian school was not up to par. So my mom opened her own school in 1980, and myself and my sister were the students. My mom also launched her own business on the side. My mom was also a music major. So the vision for the school incorporated. The vision for the school was to be a fine arts school. She taught us how to play the piano. She was the vocal coach. But because in our community, nobody has ever collectively invested in an economic cornerstone platform to launch and repair and rebuild the financial dominion that is our inheritance. So because my pop's vision, he believed in the European, Western, Greco-Roman educational system. Like many other people, my pops didn't share the same vision that my mom shared. So my mom had to sacrifice the vision, the dream of the performance arts school, of the businesses that she has started on her own. She had bought a duplex, and my pops had his own business on the side. So he's in business, but he's doing business just to pay the bills. He's not looking at the business to build generational wealth and hand down generational wealth to his children. He trying to do hustle on the side, because that's what we do, to be able to attend the school and get an education, and so not seeing the vision, not seeing the supernatural, God-given, divine vision that a good man leave a wealth to his children's children, not seeing that nowhere. Well, because that generation was taught, go to school, get an education, get a good job. It has never happened in our community. It has never happened in our community. It happens for the 10% in our community that keeps the system going. Of course, they're promoting it. Of course, the Barack and Michelle Obamas, they promote Columbia University and Harvard and all. Of course, because they're willing to defile their temples and their sanctuaries. They're willing to live an alternative, counterfeit lifestyle to get access to be allowed into that group. So of course, that unnatural system works for them. 90% of our people have never achieved. Never. 400 years. Listen, you've been off the plantation since 1865. You fought in World War I in 1917. If from 1917, where you demonstrated, yo, we all in. Listen, if all men are created equal in listen, when they came back home and they did a baby boomer generation and they was giving land grants out and all that, if you was included in the American dream, then that would have worked for the other 90% of our people. And it hasn't happened. And we still here in 2020. And y'all still telling the babies the same thing. Won't happen here. The vision that my mom laid down, she took one for the team so that my father's dreams could be made whole. And my father's dream and vision, later on, he came back to, yo, man, God want me to go and become a filmmaker. Later on, he got a vision and dream. So now I'm in a position where I could put a school together to fulfill my mother's dream and my father's dream. So both of these individuals saved my life. And so now we're going to take because my mom put the desire and the passion to go into performance arts, music at the highest levels, and then produce content and own the content and distribute it worldwide and lead individuals in the highest form of cheerleading and worship and praise to the Most High. And then my father was the gatekeeper. He came up at the golden era of hip hop. These two individuals. My mom physically was a music major, a pianist, a vocal phenomenon. So from early, every group they was in, we was exposed to the production and the bands and the drummers and the pianists and the vocal coaches. So from as early as I can remember, we trained in the arts. My mom's invested in a piano, and as she was doing her music major and her vocal coaching and her piano lessons, she then was sitting us down, and that was a part of our education. And then Pops was the gatekeeper. Pops was the gatekeeper at the height of, I can remember one of the worst butt whoopings I got in my life. This is my sister and myself in the school that my mom started. My wife turned around in 1999, and these two children, it's almost an identical photo. These two children were enrolled in the same school. There was a Seventh-day Adventist elementary school that they could have went to. The European Western one, Hinsdale, wasn't good enough. There's also an African-American elementary school that they could have went to, Shiloh. But because we saw the same thing going on, same thing coming out of Michigan, still, that my mom saw coming out of Michigan when she was there in 1980. And this time it's coming out of the Black Conference. At least it was the white people that was doing it to my mom and my dad. But here in 1999, we get into Chicago, and then the Black Conference, they got a gym named Eric Thomas and Dee Dee pastoring a church in Michigan State. And the Lake Region Conference of Seventh-day Adventists comes at my main man, Eric Thomas. No biblical reasons, no, all politics. All politics. They did the same thing for our main man, Eric Walsh. Eric Walsh, another Bell Tower founder, Bell Tower Ministry. Bell Tower Ministry led to us launching Alien Nation at Oakwood. Eric Walsh is out in California, the Seventh-day Adventist church in California, because Eric Walsh is a doctor and he's talking about the supernatural union of the family and the biblical foundation of a husband and a wife, one man and one woman. And because the Seventh-day Adventist church, especially in California, is the most liberal, and because the Seventh-day Adventist church is just like any other of these churches, they sit Eric Walsh down for speaking truth and not aligning with the agenda. So as a young dude, me and my wife, we seeing the same thing that my mom and father was seeing. And because my mom took a stand in the 80s and like, yo, when you see institutions that claim to be one thing, living a lie and doing something else, it's your job to take my grandbabies. It's your job to give my grandbabies truth. I don't care what nobody else say or do, because that's what I did for you. You're not going to get mine no less than what I gave you. It's called the foundation. Called every seed brings forth fruit after its own kind. Our loyalties is not to a conference. Our loyalties is not to a denomination. Train up a child in the way he should go, and he will not depart from it. If you can't get in line with her, you got an enemy. If you can't line up with the desires of her heart, prepare for war. If you can't line up with the desires of her heart, my grandmother, I see you on the battlefield. I see you on the battlefield. Now, y'all want to play around and y'all want to sing y'all little stinking songs. I'm on the battlefield for you, Lord. You got to prove it. What Lord? What God? You can't be on the battlefield for the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, because that's the only God we wage war for. And if you waging war for that king and king and that Lord of lords, then you're going to be in line with the desires of our heart. And Eric Walsh would not have to sit down for promoting this. Eric Thomas and Dee Dee would not have to go and start their own church, a place for change ministry, where they could continue to change, because Seventh-day Adventists is not interested in change. They interested in the change in your pocket. They ain't interested in the transfiguration and the transformation that the Messiah did when he came out of the tomb and said, all authority is given me. They're not interested in that change. No, if you was interested in that change, still you could not stand next to the Antichrist, Pope Francis, in 2015, 2016, 2017, like Barry Black does annually as the chaplain of the Senate in the United States of America. Oh, nah. Nah. See, already, we already defeated all of these entities. We done crushed the Antichrist since 2015. Pope Francis is the Antichrist. Pope Francis is the Antichrist. And when the Protestant evangelical movement embraced Pope Francis from 2015 to 2019, that's why you got the slaughter, because the mark of the beast is persecute and wear out the saints. Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7 says, whenever Rome comes on the scene and whenever the world bows down to Rome, Rome will wear out the saints and think to change times and laws. What? Antichrist. The chapter about the Antichrist is Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7 said a fourth beast with teeth of iron, Rome, will come and think to change times and laws. Laudato Si is the document that Pope Francis has introduced to change and force the whole world to worship, and it will happen in Biden's the next 4 years. They will force the whole world, guarantee you. Forced Sunday worship. The excuse is climate change. And they changed the climate, Genesis chapter 6 says, because they shed blood. It is the mark of the beast. Persecuting and wearing out the saints. 200,000 Americans dead. Persecuting and wearing out the saints. The only people in the world still speaking truth is those of us here in the United States. Everywhere else, everybody's silent. They all following. The only hope for the world is looking to America like, yo, is Daniel going to stand up? We've been standing up. So, I'm going to take y'all through got a series of questions. If you can answer these series of questions, then you're going to be able to see what your worth is. You're going to be able to see God posed this question 1,000 years before Jesus was born. What a havillionaire is. A havillionaire is a real, tangible amount of money, and on the end of havillion is heir. The heirs, the royals who have inherited. A good man leaveth wealth to his children's children. And the riddle that Solomon placed in Proverbs chapter 31, who can find the virtuous supernatural woman? Only a havillionaire can. See, this whole thing has only been about being havillionaire matchmakers. Pavillionaire matchmakers. This is where they get the show Jeopardy from. This is renowned. Supernatural Jeopardy. Because if you can't find the virtuous supernatural woman, you can't have fruit. The opposite of the renowned supernatural, the renowned virtuous supernatural woman is a Wonder Woman. The whole world is wondering after Mystery Babylon, the great Wonder Woman is Mystery Babylon. The opposite of the virtuous woman, the virtuous supernatural woman, where the game show Jeopardy comes from. Solomon, the most ignorant man alive. I can't believe preachers still talk about Solomon is the wisest man alive. I can't believe that people still, after reading the story of Solomon, people still ignorantly call Solomon the wisest man ever. Solomon is the most ignorant man ever. This hate waste fast is built off of Solomon's life. You have parents who raised you up and put you in a position to rule with abundant life and wealth and blessings on every side. David ruled for 70 years, no war, the richest person ever. Solomon didn't contribute one dime to that. Everything that Solomon got, he inherited it and lost it in one generation. Wisest man alive, Solomon died and his children was broke. All of the wealth David had amassed was gone in one generation. And y'all around here talk about Solomon as the wise, just because of his covenant with God. Just because of the idolatrous lifestyle of following the kings of all the other nations. And the crazy thing is, the king before David lived that lie and the people were impoverished. David came and erased that and brought back prosperity, and Solomon went right back to exactly what Saul did. How ignorant is Solomon? The dumbest clown coon ever. And the reason that y'all are dumb clown coons is because y'all read little passages, and the Europeans, because they have elevated Solomon's covenant with Satan instead of David's covenant with God, they got you believing still today that Solomon is who to follow. So my pops is playing gatekeeper, right? We get to New Jersey. We finished with Michigan. We finished. We back at the crib. It's the golden age of hip hop. My mom has immersed us in music all our life. She's singing in the Aeolians. Her music director and her music major is Eurydice Osterman of the Aeolians. This is the ultimate Dr. Eurydice Osterman. But when they really go to worship, they in the way back when chorale. And the way back when chorale is like, it was like hip hop on Oakwood. That's what the way back when chorale was. Just like you got dynamic praise today at Oakwood, and you still got the Aeolians. The way back when was the dynamic praise before there was a dynamic praise. So I'm immersed in this. This is all we do. We play music, let every weekend, all throughout the week, music. We get to Trenton. Now hip hop is, now we got turntables. So my pops is like, listen, yo, In my house, we don't listen to no secular nothing, yo. Don't listen. Don't bring that trash in my house. I'm not bringing that trash in my house. Do not bring that trash in my house. So I got a cousin that live right there. I got some cousins that live right down the street. My pops, one of his second cousins, Teddy Ganges. Rest in peace, Teddy. One of the coldest ball players, yo. One of the coldest ball players, yo. Talk about George Gervin, Iceman George Gervin, nasty for all of y'all. Y'all knew the basketball. Y'all knew the hip hop too. So that might go over your heads. But Teddy Ganges had 3 boys right down the street. And all 3 of the boys did something different. But the oldest son was named Frank, like my father. And Frank was in the hip hop. The baby was Troy. Troy was the hooper. So I used to hoop with Troy. Frankie wrestled. And Eric was just super intelligent. Like if we had computers that day, in that time, Eric would be like the computer programmer type. He was also a skateboarder. This was before, like, they got Lil Wayne and these niggas around here talking about, listen, yo, listen, back in the early 80s, dirt biking, motorbikes. This is where the whole DMX Rough Riders came out of. This is what we was doing in New Jersey back then. The Europeans always take what we do, and all they did was they went to ESPN and they monetized what we have been doing. They created the X Games to make it look like white boys created the skateboard movement, like white boys created the BMX movement. They ain't create nothing. They ain't seen what we was doing, and they just monetize everything we doing. It's called biting. Dirt bikes, motorbikes, skateboards. We had the half pint in the back of the joint, everything. All of it. We had the wooden half pipes, skating down the joints, like all of that. All they did was went and got some white boy named Tony Hawk that was around during the same time. They get Tony Hawk the skateboard, and they get the little redhead white boy the snowboard. And they create $1 billion industry off of what we doing in the early 80s. They just monetize it. And they go get a black dude named Sal Masakela. And he is the comment, he's the black face. And they try and make it seem like he's the anomaly. They've been in our hoods watching us since the 80s. But because white folks got disposable income, them parents, they go and build BMX dirt bike trails in their backyard. And they got all of their little friends coming over with all of these new bikes and all that. And then they do the races, and next thing you know, they're like, oh, we can make money off of this. Let's turn on the camp. Listen, there is nothing in the United States of America that Europeans do that they haven't gotten from us. Nothing. Not a musical genre, no fashion label, nothing. So, get back to the story. My pops. So he like, yo, don't bring that, no secular, listen. We ride in other people's cars. He make them cut the radio off. Yo, Frank E didn't play. On my word. We in somebody else's car, come pick us up, and they got the radio on playing secular music. He like, yo, you gotta cut that off. My son in the car, yo. My man. Click. So for some strange reason, LL Cool J had dropped his first album. It had I'm Bad on it. It had I need a radio inside my hand. Don't need to offend other citizens, but I keep my volume way past 10. It had I Need Love on it. Doom, 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 doom. So I go down the street and yo, every time I go in there, Frankie is killing LL's new album. So for something, I don't know what possessed me. I took the nigga tape and I brought it to the crib. Why my pops go in my top drawer? And he see LL. Yo, just the fact that it was in his house. Just the fact that I had brought it into his house, yo. Up until that time, that was one of the worst whoopings. Trust me, I done got way worse whoopings than that one. But up until that point, that was the top. Now my pops don't even know. My pops don't know that in hip hop, now that in rap, this is why I tell y'all rap is dead. And I'm gonna go through each one of these points throughout this marathon. Every one of these joints that I told y'all is dead, I'm gonna show y'all why it's dead and how we killed it. But what my job to do is to do in this day for these babies. What these two did in the 80s during the golden age of hip hop, when I didn't know no better, when I couldn't see. See, this is why he says train up a child in the way he should go. You ain't got to understand the training, young ones. Your children ain't got to understand the training, y'all. God ain't never said, make sure they happy about. God ain't never said nothing. He just said, yo, train up the child in the way that they should go. It ain't no conversation. It ain't no options. It ain't no debate. It don't matter how you feel about it. It don't matter what you think about it. It don't matter what your friends is doing. It don't matter what the whole world is doing. It don't matter what the radio say, what the TV say. I don't care what your teachers say. I don't care what other family members think. I don't care what nobody think. He told you, train up that child in a way that they should go. It's training time. I mean boot camp, homie. And at the time, I was a hip-hop head. Already, I was a hip-hop head. And if it wasn't for the foresight of my pops, because even already then, Russell Simmons was partnered with Lawyer Cohen and Rick Rubin, who before they came and got him, they went and got Africa Bambaataa, who was sexually assaulting little young boys, a pedophile. Hip hop is built, the rap industry is built on these predator, Greco-Roman, European vultures who wanted to monetize that which they have not created. That concept is unnatural. And any black people who sell you out to allow the European to monetize the Europeans' monetary system is always connected to rituals found in Greece and Rome, taxed to their economy. You cannot get money in their economy without the rituals that are attached to the economic purse strings of Greece and Rome. And if Greece and Rome had created the industries, and then you want to get into their industries, then you at fault. It's your fault. But Greece and Rome have not created any of these industries and markets. They have these gatekeepers that keep them in your lives. These are the high priests of white supremacy. These are the gatekeepers of the enslavement of our people. Greece and Rome been dead. They keep resurrecting it. They keep selling you to slavery to the Greeks and Romans. So they create the industry. And because Russell Simmons, you say, is a part of your community and a part of your culture. We don't have a culture. We got a heritage. Havilion heir. H-E-I-R is a royal heir and who has an inheritance. This is why they always talk about culture, because they can't talk about sovereignty. You've been dumbed down to culture. When you are an heir to a sovereign inheritance. This is Solomon. Solomon chose to be a slave to Satan's idolatry when he was the heir of his father's spiritual covenant that overflowed into supernatural, physical, material, wealth, and prosperity, health, longevity. He died 100 and something years old. We talking about physical wealth. I'm always talking about physical. Like I said, Christianity is dead too. Christianity does the same thing for the Greeks and Romans that Russell Simmons does. Identical. Same playbook. And the problem is my father has not applied the same spirit of discernment. He has not applied the same skills of the gatekeeper. Because he always assumes, because the wolves that Paul warned him to watch out for, who would persecute and wear out the saints, are already in amongst the flock. But because all of our people keep giving Christians a pass, the conservative heathen gets a pass just because they use a masquerade of a name called Christianity. They live the same lifestyle that Russell Simmons lived. These two niggas live the same lifestyle. These two niggas, they practice the same, they bow to the same pope. Russell Simmons is a slave, has always been a slave. In the 80s, nobody knew. Now it's public knowledge that him and Harvey Weinstein been sexually assaulting and abusing people their whole career. Now they got a Me Too movement in 2017. Now everybody is conscious of. They've been doing this the whole time. Before it was him, it was Quincy Jones. Before it was this nigga, it was Quincy Jones. Before it was Quincy Jones, it was Sammy Davis Jr. and Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack. And these Christians been living the same lie. But see, this is Rome's job. Rome said, I will control every stream of revenue. Rome ain't just going after the record industry and the film industry and leaving the tithe and the offering. and leaving God's covenant, the one place where you're guaranteed. Listen, you can't get real wealth in the record industry. This is the number one thing that Rome has control from the door. And the Apostle Paul told you, grievous wolves have already come in amongst the flock. This is the most important. This is what the enemy got Solomon on 1,000 years before the Messiah. Not on this. This is the devourer of wealth. These wolves. But see, my kids in my generation, they fooled by this. So I'm going to do in this generation publicly right here on YouTube and Facebook what my dad did for me in the crib. See, when my dad gave me that butt whooping in the crib, I didn't know that he was promoting pedophilia. I didn't know that he was promoting Satan worship. Today, right here today, I'm going to show you the true worship of the rap industry and the Nicolaitan Christians. It's called Gnosticism. Y'all ready? Gnosticism. So when KRS comes and says knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone, knowledge. The Greek's word for knowledge is gnosis. The same G that's in GQ, Gnostic Queens. Wonder Woman, where you got to wonder if it's a woman or a man, that's Gnosticism. Pedophilia, Wonder Woman, where they're sleeping with little boys. The same LL Cool J was sleeping with transgender prostitutes in New York. It didn't come out until 2020, but when his album was out, this little 18-year-old boy, they already was drugging him up, sexually assaulting LL to the point that 17, 18-year-old LL was a cocaine addict, sleeping with transgender men in the red light district in New York. The only way for 18-year-old boys to be turned out on cocaine and sleeping with transgender prostitutes is if they are being initiated and groomed and sexually assaulted by predators. This is what the rap industry is. This is what Hollywood is. You can't say it's not, because we already know about Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein and Russell Simmons, and we got a whole Me Too movement now. It's always been, this is what Hollywood's priesthood is. The Me Too movement is the fact that God has said what's done in the dark will be brought to the light. The fact that Roman Catholic priests keep getting outed for sexually assaulting the altar boys and girls that go to these Catholic schools. It's not the fact. Listen, they would never, ever out themselves. They would have kept it in the closet for forever. It is their priesthood. It is what they do. But God said it has to come to the light. They just keep sweeping it back under the rug. They move the people around and they keep doing what they've always done. But it's not about them. It's about you. God's saying you're supposed to do like my dad did and separate yourself and put enmity between that trash and yourself. And you got an army of young people today that believe the rap industry and hip hop is the same thing. Rap industry and hip hop ain't the same thing. I'm going to separate it for y'all. The rap industry is dead. This is the rap industry. I am hip hop. What this woman sat down at the piano and the school that she taught us. the redeemed sing a song that no man can sing. David did a dance that Solomon ain't know nothing about. David danced before God and the Holy Ghost filled the temple. Listen, Solomon ain't know nothing about that. Rap and hip hop is two totally different things. So I'm going to educate y'all today on the difference between rap. This is rap. The gospel music that they sing, it's all rap. Nicolaitan Christianity, Hollywood, it is Hollywood. This is an act. God said the wolves in sheep's clothing. This is Hollywood. This is Hollywood and this is Hollywood. And Hollywood is a priesthood that practices specific sexual rituals to let the gods that they're worshiping know that this worship belongs to you. The sex is the worship. Then we can make the music to go with the sex. The sex, the music, the prostitution. It's the worship in Hollywood. It's a priesthood. And to separate and to maintain the enmity that God has said, they have to maintain the things of defilement that prove that they are Hollywood. This is Hollywood. The burning bush that did not burn is holy wood. The burning bush that Moses was called to. Holy wood is an actual thing. And Hollywood is an actual thing. Hollywood is the counterfeit for holy wood. Rap is the counterfeit for what David did and the Holy Ghost responded to. We clear? And so now we're creating the school that this generation can continue to create Hollywood hip hop. That fiery furnace, flaming hip hop song that no man can sing, that the three Hebrew boys sung in the midst of some flames, and the Son of God came down and provided the track. Huh? They was walking around singing a song in the flame, and the Most High God, Michael, got up off the throne and came down. Because hip-hop is about. This is the difference between Greco-Roman history and the prophet. First, the prophets tell you beforehand what's going to happen in the future. Then the prophet come back and reveal present day. I told you this was going to happen. The Messiah did it to them for 40 days before he poured out the Holy Ghost. The word of God says he came out of the tomb. He said, y'all go get in the upper room. I'm going to come holler at y'all. I'm going to go holler at my pops. I'm going to transfigure. I'm going to put back on Michael. Jesus was the lamb. I'm going to go put on the lion. Next time you see me, you will see the Shiloh lion, King of Kings. He went and he exchanged the lamb slain for the Shiloh lion pride. And he said, now I'm about to go down in the lion's den with my cubs for 40 days. Y'all talk about Revelation is the book of Revelation. Yo, in Matthew, it says he revealed to them every single prophecy that he fulfilled. While he was walking, he kept saying, I have not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. And it says he spent 40 days with them in the upper room, going back through, we don't have history. We got fullness of time. When the fullness of time comes, God sent forth his son. The fulfillment of prophecy is the fullness of time. And either you could waste fullness of time or you could fulfill fullness of time. History is just a regurgitation and some revised events. Some made up Rome erased prophetic fulfillments. Rome has erased. The Greco-Roman world has erased, has tried to erase, has tried to rewrite a narrative. That's what their history is. A revised narrative, a imposter, a fake narrative, a fake story. And they tell you it's fiction or it's a myth. This is what your Western history is. It's all myths. So his children wouldn't have to put their faith in a myth. He came for 40 days and said, remember when Isaiah said this? When we were fed the 5,000, I said, boom, I fulfilled what Isaiah said. And then they listen, they got the scriptures. They pull out Isaiah, boom, 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 boom. Then he like, remember when we was up on the mountain? They're like, oh, snap. Then he like, remember what Jeremiah said? They flipped to Jeremiah 1,500 years before he was born. They flipped to Jeremiah. Jeremiah said, blah, 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 blah. He like, remember when the woman at the well, remember with the woman with the issue of blood, when she came through and she touched you, boom, boom, boom. Remember Jeremiah? Look at it. They're like, oh, snap. The difference between y'all Western historians is you ain't fulfilling nothing. It's artificial ignorance. That's what Solomon had. When you talk about historical figures, it's artificial ignorance because they're not living up to the fulfillment of fullness of time. It's just artificial ignorance. On the other side, the prophets are abundant life investment. Abundant life investment. He reveals every abundant life investment that he has made. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Daniel, He came for 40 days. He like, remember this abundant life investment that I told you about was going to happen? I already fulfilled it. So now when they went out of the room, in Pentecost, they didn't have blind faith. Y'all got blind faith. Y'all got blind faith in Christianity that will never be fulfilled. The apostles could never be Christians because they had the revelation that, listen, they had blind faith before he died and rose. They had the blind faith. After he rose, spent 40 days with them and then gave them the power of the Holy Ghost, they ain't had y'all Christian blind faith. He has said it, then he did it, then he came and revealed it, and then they went to go and do the same thing in the lives of everybody that they came in contact that he did for them. They just went to go repeat it. So now I'm coming to do for my children and your children and everybody exactly what my parents did, because they said it. I had blind faith when I was a shorty. But in these past couple of years, now that the beast has shown up, now that the Antichrist, Pope Francis, has shown up, everything that my parents had said had trained us up and put us and told us, don't do this and don't do this. And now we see they've been sexually assaulting and pushing this agenda that Obama and them rubber stamp. Y'all embrace individuals. That's rubber stamping an agenda to destroy the lives of these children when they have been assaulting these children since Sammy Davis Jr. So how can Barack Obama come and push for equality on a platform of civil rights when there has been a war and an attack on the home. It has never been a civil right. They have been doing this. And because it wasn't in our community, they came to get African Bambaataa and Russell Simmons. Why? Because listen, the Beatles and all of them, they had already lived this satanic lifestyle with LSD and acid popping in the 60s and 70s. And it is not in our community in the early 80s and the early 90s. We ain't doing it. We ain't sleeping with men. We ain't doing it. And this is why they came to bring it to, they came to bring their rock and roll rap into our hip hop, where we still got mothers who is responding to a call and going and becoming music majors and starting schools to teach us performance arts and fine arts that are separate from us defiling ourselves. Now, let me show you what it looked like. Let me teach y'all. Let me teach y'all. Raw and uncut. I'm not bleeping out nothing, none of that. I ain't got the time to sit down and edit these videos. If I'm gonna give y'all the truth, I got to give y'all the truth. These individuals, they say listen, this is a freestyle session. So if you oppose, like my father was, my father didn't allow no curses, so I understand. But the goal is to show you the difference. The goal is to show you how they have merged together rap and hip hop. They have merged together their counterfeit gospel music industry. And queens like this who worship in spirit and in truth. The gospel industry has nothing to do with what my mom's praise and worship was. Just like the Christian school that was trying to teach my sister who was mistreating my sister, my mom is like, you is not everlasting. Listen, you is not the school of the prophets. When the children of Israel sent their children to Eli, to the prophet Eli, and he taught them in the school of the prophets, Eli did not abuse the children. Eli wasn't a bigot and a racist. So my mom says, the principle, the character says, you do whatever you need to do to train up your child and give them the principles. And if the individuals who you are trying to use as resources to assist you in training up your child, if they are not in line with your covenant that you have made with God, David and Bathsheba had made a covenant with God. And God said, you can build me a sanctuary. I'll fill the sanctuary with my spirit, but you can't build it because you got blood on your hands because you was a warrior. So you got to train up your child who will be faithful. And as long as Solomon was under the covenant of his parents, he received wisdom and all that. When he was making his own choices as an adult, his choices did not match the training that he got. And so he did not receive the same blessings. And that's called a waste. And I will not have it on my watch. They taught us how to train up children. They taught us that they entered into a covenant. They taught us how to teach the children to enter into the covenant. And listen, if the children want to go out and do like Solomon and embrace a counterfeit covenant, whether it's the Christians that was in school with their grandmama and grandfather, this man went to Oakwood, this man went to Pine Forge. My father's little brother went to Pine Forge in 1975. This man was at Pine Forge. This man went down to Oakwood. They was at Oakwood. If my children choose to go out there and let him lie to them, if they choose to go out there and just like Solomon, have the Most High God come and rebuke him 3 times when he was making his own choices and say, I am not happy with you. They will not be able to say that they did not know and they weren't trained. That's what they can't say. Same thing for this rap industry. Same thing for Hollywood. They will never be able to say, Hollywood deceived me. I ain't know that Russell Simmons was, I ain't know that. They will never be able to say it. They will never be able to say that, yo, rap and hip hop is the same. Christianity and everlasting gospel is the same. They will never be able to say that lie. So this is what we was gravitating to. This is what we was gravitating to. This is the principle of hip hop. This is what the Europeans wanted to control, monetize. This is what the Greco-Romans can't do. And they had to get Russell Simmons to recruit us as gatekeepers and offer us up to the Greco-Romans who wanted to own this, who wanted to possess this, who coveted this. Covetousness is a sin. Greece and Rome, the Europeans, the West, covet everything that the East creates and built. We're going to give you a lesson. If you love young people right now, if you love the young people in your life right now, the best thing you could do is teach this lesson to them. Rap is dead. And rap ain't hip hop. Christianity is dead. Christianity is not everlasting gospel. So this is what we gravitated to. All right. This is the principles of hip hop. Principles. I'm gonna show you what the difference is.
Funk Flex, I'm here. I mean, listen, I like to answer people's demands. I like to come through with what they ask me for. All right. Black Thought is here. Yes,
sir.
And we're gonna, you know what we do in this position. Ciroc Studios, we here. Let's go, Ern.
Do it. I'm sorry for your loss. It's somebody dead in the car, and it's probably one of yours. The writing all across the window in the walls. Whether it was true or false, we shouldn't have got involved. Remember, we walked past the teacher, take the chalk and laugh. We wrote punishments. I will not talk in class. Now it's pistols punishing people for talking fast, and all these innocent bystanders is hauling ass. I hate to say I told y'all, but I told y'all things fall apart when it's in a 2 week to hold y'all. I'm just collecting what you owe to my old jaw. You about to get swooped down on and stole on.
They can't do it.
Wise men know they foolish, but we was headed for the web even before computers. I never thought you'd give me a reason to do this. Cain and Abel, Jesus and Judas.
Lil Wayne ain't this.
I see intruders, avert your eyes. I told you keep out of the hood, circumcised.
6ix9ine,
I thought you always was the first to ride. And yo, you heard the line. Everybody plays the
Drake
fool.
can't do it.
Well, I'll be that exception to the rule. The principle to hand the living lesson to the school. I was making major moves. My dollar deja vu. My mission was my ambition was brandishing the tool to be an icon.
Whatever you listen to, it ain't this.
Getting mine quicker because I'm slick as a pipeline.
They can't do it.
The oil, tribulation and toil oil hit the operation, but I'm back in the soil. Got my crown tilted, my gown quilted.
You don't know what hip hop
Burn
is.
the room down in a minute. Built it last year. Newsflash, I dodged the bullet that killed the cashier. My homie told me to come with him to the mass.
You ain't never
The
seen
brother
hip hop.
said, "Go from written bars filled with rage to primetime television and your gilded cage.
And you rap
The
niggas is
people
dead.
in the world still enslaved. I barbed wire my wrist and let it feel the page. Gunfire and flare, sirens glare. I'm in an iron chair with people who care. Don't get the lion's share. When I don't give a fuck, then I ain't fair. I'm on a higher tier with people getting money like the finest said. Catch the heralds, I'm fresh chop and bevel rap on a doctrine level. So F. Scott, Fitzgerald, maybe I'm the new Rakim. Maybe I'm Fat Pharaoh. Undergarments are all my intimate apparel. Pre-Kardashian.
We own hip hop.
My rhyme play immaculate. Same cadence as DOC. Pre-accident, maybe my acting's on par. Mukuji rapping them, give me the proper respect.
Y'all better go. Y'all better go.
A couple things we lost in the fire. The drive, the desire.
Y'all better go invest in classical music or something.
I'm at that show, lost in the mire, wondering how we got so far from inspired. Look, when photos with sepia tone and record players was something you would keep in your home. Yo, the traveler, the meaning of Tariki was known. The exemplary performance uniquely is on. I made
not hip hop
for summer newfound religion.
You ain't never heard it.
Put down, it's only one sound that make OGs and young lions equally proud to listen. The secret amalgamism, my algorithm. Coming from where only kings and crowds permitted the darkness.
You better go get some classical music.
My image and parchment rolls into a scroll, holding a message for you. It said the only thing for sure is taxes up in trouble. The anomaly, sworn solemnly, high snobbery, freakonomics and war policy, dichotomy. That's heaven and Hades. Tigris and Euphrates. It's
Tigris and Euphrates.
The iris of you ladies. As babies,
Garden of Eden.
Similar infamil to the internet and fentanyl. With all consent was still against the will. I got the detox for y'all. The microphone, Dr. Black, Deepak Chappelle. I'm a griot that make you want to peacock your arm. Every heavy dignitary paying me top. Regards, boy, I'm 3 octaves far. The B-knock, your law.
Where you at?
Smart money finna get the heat out. The
Dirty South, what? Where you at?
Tupac, your car got profiled by a few cops. Too hot to charge. Listen,
St. Louis,
the price tag was on a rapper's head, so we gonna see it tag when a rapper's dead. The mask black, the flag green, black and red.
Y'all better stop playing with us, yo. Y'all rap niggas is dead.
With their own route. I can't explain.
You got a ghostwriter, you dead, yo. You done ever had a ghostwriter, you not hip hop, you rap nigga.
Prior to their release, cause why wait?
What?
In my state, I got electrified gates for these blase guys taking at a high rate. Cause I dodged fakes and got Drake to fly straight. If we ain't family or friends, then we don't vibrate. And I'm that. None of y'all fake, none of y'all safe.
None of y'all safe.
Right time in the wrong place. Sipping on something with a strong taste. Like whiskey or bootleg bourbon with a corn base. My Levante resemble a vehicular threat. The mic I spray resembling a sickle of death. It ain't strenuous to come from a continuous breath. I set fire to the venue, I'ma spin you with step.
Drake who?
You checking for the sound of the beast. I'm the hound, I'm a creep.
Kendrick Lamar, what?
I'ma keep something to lay and they say it asleep. Playing
Snoop
with heat,
Dogg,
nobody
who?
and nothing fucking with Reek.
50 Cent, where?
Claiming they cutting up in the street. Nigga Pete.
Jay-Z, who? Meek Mills, what?
You ain't finna be nothing but the deceit.
What?
You in the tournament.
Meek Mills, you ain't Philly, nigga.
I strike fear in the hearts of rap
Meek
figures.
Mills ain't Philly.
The time, no black privilege. From boom black niggas to trap niggas. You in the trap.
You a rap
when
nigga.
The lines is ass, vivid as the walls
Acting.
on a grab autograph.
You a Russell Simmons nigga.
I reside between the seconds on a chronograph. How much more CB4 can
All
we
y'all
afford?
niggas is
It's
sons
like
of
it should be a
African
law.
man
How
bottom.
much more? How much
Rap
hypocrisy
niggas.
can people possibly
You a
endure?
KRS One knockoff rap nigga.
My young boy, y'all just regular. I'm an apex
Just
predator.
regular.
Stay fresh, feathered up,
What?
etc. But nevertheless,
What?
I got a message and left. One dead messenger. Yep, my pen is Henry Kissinger. Buzz Bissinger. Look, my capo regime, Mr. Norradine, and my oldest son, I'm
Off the
Angeline,
top.
out of New Orleans. Took a golf
Off
cart
the
to
top.
Baccarat from the Waldorf. What was on the wall?
Off the top. No Ghost Rider. Freestyle. No Ghost.
Ballpark. I charge more just for awkward small talk. So yes, who's fucking with it if it's not the best?
What?
I get the lobby painted fresh upon my request. It's Kafka S. His holiness, stop the press.
What?
The cobalt blue, reminiscent of Macaresh. Lord, we got Pad Relax me for you. Let him massage your back with black seed oil.
What?
The foundation is firm. The flags need
What?
oil. Me, I need royalty because I bleed royal.
Meek Mills,
From
who?
the veins to the brain.
Jay-Z, what?
Change. My journalistic
50
brain is the
Cent,
catalyst
who?
for change. It got anybody to
Snoop
listen
Dogg,
to
where?
and cause the Hall of
Kendrick
Fame, that's
Lamar,
somebody
what?
listen names. I'll acknowledge the original people's not Oliver. Y'all
Lil
get the
Wayne,
challenge
where?
up the Excalibur. More
Rap
release from my
niggas.
core beliefs. They tried to capture me and brand me on the cheek with a floor de leaves. The side of my heart of
It's
more
that Nas flow.
I'm international.
It's
My
that
passport
Nipsey Hussle
pages like
flow.
War and Peace. I've always played my part from the start. Back in Philly where the triggers is mandatory to spark. With the slightest inflammatory remark, I have you in a live in a category apart.
What?
Listen, a grain of salt, tip the scales, it never fails. Walk on eggshells, sleep on a bed of nails. Criminal records like
Listen,
record
man.
sales, making heads and tails.
About to
Be
teach
like
y'all
every
something
other
today.
act up in the
Rap
south.
is
My
dead,
mother
yo.
was a working class, very loving woman who struggled
I'ma
every
do
day.
for y'all kids what Frank and Bev did for me. They saved my life.
And then walk in the crib to the smell of crack cooking. She was introduced to that substance abuse on some of the strongest drugs that the government produced. Look, I even got excused by the principal. My story is out of the Dub interview. I seen some ice cold summers, hot winters too. I never thought I would Grammy awards with the roots. I never thought I would be getting long in the tooth. My OG told me, boy, you better go and live your truth. I am a walking affirmation. That imagination and focus and patience get you closer to your aspiration. And just because they give you shit don't mean you have to take it. My words capture greatness, sworn affidavits. Yours truly, the celestial being you stay seeing pulling up in the fresh European. Hot stepping out of it, dressed to a 10. Not another got more soul. Less you Korean. I've been having visions of that turn holding his master's head.
Yo.
Like Zurich and Horatio and Hamlet. Smacking it like a tennis racket, underhanded. Send a message through the gram, the eagle is landed. Dressed in a military jacket made of canvas.
Yo.
I am no gorilla, I just make them go bananas.
Yo.
Outstanding, red, black, and green bandanas.
Yo.
Cock hammers, heads on my chin is
Yo.
outstanding. Can't
Yo.
manage the way the water,
Yo.
just how I'm balling.
Yo.
Look, I'll fall from the
Yo.
sky to see my calling.
Yo.
I'm not crawling, I'm a free man like
What?
Morgan. Seeing manhood in the hood's a damn good bargain. If a
What?
black man don't tap dance and every girl that got a fat booty don't lap dance, well, I guess it's something wrong, huh? Niggas completely uninformed. I don't burn bridges, yo. I keep the haters running for.
What?
I ain't one of y'all peers. I'm the
What?
sum of all fears. Somebody stronger
the
than me. Who
difference
that?
between
I'm
rap
all
and
ears like
hip-hop.
Obama. I wish he had another
We
4
not
years.
buying rap
Y'all Valley
niggas.
Good, Hollywood squares. I'm
Rap
like
is
the
dead. Y'all niggas living alternative lifestyles. You're dead. Y'all niggas who won't stand up to be me. You're dead. It's dead, yo. You're not gonna be in my kids' life. We assassinate anybody promoting or pushing anything other than husband manhood. We assassinate all out war against anybody pushing anything other than husband manhood. Where you at? We still on the same block. We still on the same corners. We ain't changed nothing. We ain't running. We don't need no guns. Yo, we all at.
And y'all know I'm exquisite. Wicked as Wilson Pickett. The sickness I exhibit. I'm too legit to quit it. I don't fake it till I make it.
This is what the Europeans wanted.
Never timid. What I'm about, I represent.
This is what Russell
it.
Simmons
It's just
gave
like
us.
cases. Been a
And
million
every time you
places.
allow your
Conversations,
child
how
to
beautiful
go out
my face is.
and you don't
Haters
control the
how
narrative,
sophisticated my taste is. Then I'll pull
you
the
are
40s
part of the
motherfuckers
problem.
in a spaceship, panther mind. I made
My
element
pop
you
stood
can't
up and was
combine.
like,
I'm at
listen.
a level.
My pop stood up and was, my pops ain't even had no concept of the trap and the snare that they was setting up to get compromised niggas like this. This is Jay-Z's album. Holy Grail. Some Greco-European, effeminate, flamboyant men. This is what Russell Simmons came to sell and give Rick Rubin and Lawyer Cohen. They were searching for the King of New York, and Russell Simmons gave them Jay-Z. And they have given the children of this generation everything that you see that is rap, and it's dead. When we stepped out our doors and went down to the corner, the Roots was the niggas on the corner spitting. And then when we wanted to be a part of the movement, we had to get our lyrics to step in that circle. We had the same mentality when niggas was doing hip hop that we had when we was going to the basketball court. It was no different. The football field, the basketball court, listen, football and basketball is just as much a part of hip hop, and this is with the rap industry, they have divided football. If you go to a video on YouTube where Carmelo Anthony is teaching his son how to dribble, he teaches his son how to have a handle because he says you got to dribble to the beat of the track. And when you play music and you sync your dribble to the track, you will have mastered your handles. And then I went to a video present day, and the boy got handles for days. It's all of y'all fake wannabe spectator consumers. Y'all are consumers. All our people know how to do is consume. And the bad part is you consume the lie because you ain't actively participating in the foundation of creating the content that is hip hop. We created it on the football field. We created it on the basketball court. We walked down the block. We got in these ciphers. We stepped in boxing rings. Our whole neighborhood was designed off of battling. Every day, every block, you had a different form of hip hop going down. And if you wanted to join the circle, you had to bring your skills or get gobbled up. We battled in boxing. We left the boxing ring. He might slap me up today, but tomorrow I'm going to come back. I'm going to practice for hours. I'm going to practice for hours. Then I'm going to get back in the ring and I'm going to knock the nigga out. I'm going to go to the basketball court. Same thing happened on the basketball court. Same thing. We walk to the football field. Same thing. Niggas is spitting over here on this block. I go to that block. We spit rhymes. We go down the block. They got the cardboard out in the street. We break dancing, pop locking, beatboxing. Listen, our whole neighborhood. Listen, Hollywood came into our neighborhoods and took Beat Street to the street. Listen, Beat Street ain't a movie. Beat Street was our life. And because Europeans couldn't do it, in order to control it, they had to put a system in place of gatekeepers that put obstacles and barriers to separate. So now the industry is based off of, yo, how bad you want it. It ain't based off of talent. It ain't based off of skills. It ain't based off of who the best. It's based off of who has a compromised character and morals and who wants to get out of the poverty that they also control. So if you willing to do whatever, ever to get this paycheck, then you are the, and if you can rap, then we want you. That's what the rap industry is. Hip hop is about dominion. Hip hop is about dominion, and the dopest thing about hip hop is everybody in the neighborhood all agrees. A European can't come and select a clown and make them the king. Hip hop is about the same thing that happened at Rucker Park. When you go into Rucker Park and you play at Rucker Park, all of Harlem know who is the nastiest nigga in the neighborhood. Why? Because we saw it. We testified that we seen him drop 40 on you. That's hip hop. Hip hop is dominion that has proof. Rap is the European Western, Greco-Roman priesthood of defilement, capitalizing on dehumanization economically. What? Capitalizing on dehumanization economically. every industry that European, Western, Greco-Romans have put in place. This is a European, Western, Greco-Roman. These are the dads. Robert Kiyosaki says, rich dad, poor dad. These are the poor dads of the European, Western, black markets, capitalizing on dehumanization economically. These are the dads of Europe. Their offspring are George H.W. Bush, Joe Biden. The offspring, the seed. And God told us to crush the serpent seed. This is why we've been crushing Donald Trump. This is why we've crushed Joe Biden. But there is no Joe Biden without Barack Obama. Barack Obama is the dad. Joe Biden is the son. They got you thinking. They got the world thinking. Go back and look at the birth of the NBA. These individuals have given their German offspring the head start over you in every industry. Go look at the birth of the NBA. Individuals like them went to Ivy League schools, Princeton. Princeton has a basketball offense. It's called the Princeton offense. Everybody know it in basketball. Princeton offense. These clowns, these black Greeks, remember this is the dads of Greece and Rome. We don't call no man on earth father. And they say they have a father. The Pope in Rome. And the first popes were this color too. The first popes were this color. The first kings of every European nation were this color. The first kings, including Germany, including Austria, including Swiss, the Dutch. This is European. My dad literally saved my life because I was all in with hip hop. He saved my life by not allowing me to consume rap. So remember, I just showed y'all what hip hop is, right? Let me let Russell Simmons' nephew tell you how you got here. Who is this? This is the King of New York, right? This is who y'all call the King of New York. This is rap. Tell your grandchildren, listen, it don't matter how y'all feel about it. Why? Because we've been training ours. We've been training ours from the door. That's all they've gotten all their life. So what's going to happen is, if you allow your children to be in the dark, if you still stay in the dark, that's on you. I'm telling you how my mom set us apart. And then when I started seeing the Me Too movement between 2015 and 2020, now all of a sudden they come out and everybody talking about how Bill Cosby is sexually assaulting people, how Harvey Weinstein, how Russell Simmons, all of these individuals so-called got scandals now. Everybody knew for years that Quincy Jones and them niggas was sexually assaulting Michael Jackson. Everybody. It is no question. Everybody know that Quincy Jones propositioned Tupac Shakur to sodomize him. Quincy Jones propositioned Tupac Shakur to sodomize him. When Tupac Shakur came, Tupac was in love with Quincy Jones' daughter, and Quincy Jones couldn't help himself. He was so in love with Tupac Shakur, he begged the man to sodomize him. What? Quincy Jones been living this life way before Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons is just our generation's version of Quincy Jones. And all our people live a lie. All of y'all running around here and y'all like, yo, Quincy Jones is listen, anybody who lives that satanic alternative lifestyle is an enemy of you, your family, everybody you love. Listen, you cannot play around with these black Babylonians because you was raised listening to their music, because you didn't have a gatekeeper that raised your senses to be on guard against individuals that are trying to devour you. But when you see what Russell Simmons tells his nephew in the 80s about what he wants to introduce to our community on behalf of Germans and Europeans who run the record labels, named Rick Rubin and Lawyer Cohen, this is a war, y'all. This agenda with alternative lifestyles, this is what Russell Simmons told his nephew, that our community, he like, yo, they ain't ready for it right now. But they will be. His nephews wanted to go off into rock and roll and be the Ozzy Osbourne rap group of rock and roll. Rock and roll didn't have any just straight up rap artists doing what Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne was doing. Lyrics about worshiping the devil, biting the heads off of other. They like, yo, you brought Aerosmith into rap with Run DMC. Take us into rock and we're going to eat. His nephews was already in the occult. They like, yo, the rap industry, they all worship these occult figures since the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And they like, listen, if we the only rap group that also engages in the occult like Ozzy Osbourne, we'll be multi-millionaires. And they would have been. But it wasn't about making money. The industry is about introducing the occult practices and the satanic worship into our community to destroy this. Russell Simmons' choice not to send his son into his nephews into rock and roll shows you that they aren't about making money in the industry. Def Jam was not about making money. If they did, the same way they introduced Aerosmith to rap, they would have introduced the Flatliners to rock and roll and made an insane amount of money. They never did it. Do you know that his nephew and them broke? Def Jam was not concerned with money. But now the concepts that Def Jam wanted our people to accept and the lifestyles that they live, which are occult lifestyles. Occult just means hidden. Hidden satanic lifestyles of Gnosticism. Remember, I told you, KRS-One, not gnosis reigns supreme. That's Greek knowledge. It is a sexual act. The act is called sodomy. It is the sexual science. The science is called alchemy. The high priests that practice the sexual science of alchemy are called alchemists. And the god that they practice the alchemy, the sexual science, the sexual black magic science of sodomy, the alchemists worship Baphomet. And Russell Simmons' job was to introduce Baphomet worship into our families. And they have done it. Jay-Z is the king of Baphomet worship. Snoop Dogg is the prince of Baphomet worship. They practice the sexual black magic of alchemy, which is sodomy, and they are alchemists worshiping Baphomet. And they threw away millions of dollars. Millions of dollars they threw away just so that your sons and daughters right now will run around in Atlanta and in New York and in LA talking about ulterior lifestyles and same gender loving. These are all themes, occult themes that the Europeans were doing in Woodstock in the 60s. In the 60s, we had Dr. Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King, and we had Malcolm X and Betty Shabazz. In the 60s, they were practicing alchemy at Woodstock with the Beatles. That's a European thing that they wanted to become yours. And Barack and Michelle Obama took it, and the same thing that Russell Simmons did in rap to your family, they have done politically to your family. Huh?
Before this court passes judgment, will the four defendants please rise and approach the bench?
Trust me, guys, it's all under control. The judge is my own.
This is rap. This is not hip hop. This is Russell Simmons introducing satanic occult to our families.
I understand you guys are pleading insanity, claiming demonic spirits possess you to do these hideous murders. Can you please explain to this court how these so-called spirits made you into these raving?
Mind you, they introduced a new drug. Every time they introduce a new genre, every time they try and introduce a new age, they got a drug to accompany it. Crack was the drug to introduce this. Remember, beer, wine, and spirits. LSD is a spirit. Cocaine is a spirit. Meth is a spirit. alchemists create drugs. Pharmakeia is another part of the worship of the alchemist. They use chemistry to create drugs that accompany the sex act in their worship. The sex and the drugs are both. That's why they say sex, drugs, and rock and roll. The sex, the drugs, the music, all are spirits. This is all a part of Satan's concoction. This is why the Messiah exorcised a legion of demons. So when you got cocaine in your system, you got meth in your system, you got heroin in your system, you got alcohol in your system, you got the sodomite sexual ritual, you're introducing legions of demonic spirits. You add the music is giving the spells, casting the spells to give the spirits more power to control you over and over and over. And this is why it's called an addiction. The addiction is the spirits now, you are controlled by the appetites of the demons that are in you. So whatever they want to consume, your body then wants to consume too. Just know, this is a marriage between you and the spirits. Just like instead of marrying your wife, you have married the spirits. Instead of marrying your husband, you have been married to the spirits. And the first thing you must do for the marriage to be legitimate is to consummate the marriage. Consume your mate. This is why God said, I will rebuke the devourer for your sake. You are being devoured by demonic spirits when you open yourself up to these occult practices that they targeted our families and homes for. Consume your mate. Consummate your marriage. So the addiction is the spirit's desire for more cocaine. The spirit that's in you, attached to the drug of cocaine, wants to consume more cocaine. And because you are in bondage to the spirit, you desire to consume more cocaine too. Same thing with the sex acts. And they have rituals to get ignorant, blind people who don't know what they're getting into to get introduced blindly to this demonic possessed. And when my pops was like, listen, don't bring that trash in my crib. My pops just became a Seventh-day Adventist. He grew up listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire. Listen, he grew up getting high, getting drunk, all that. We ain't one of these fake Christian Adventists. We ain't none of these fake niggas. Listen, my pops and moms, they responded to a call to come up out of them streets. And when they believed that they had received truth, they aligned their lives and their lifestyles and their appetites. Don't no spirit have control over nobody. You could take back control. This is why we're doing a hate waste fast. To show y'all that you got proof to take back control of your life when it comes to sickness, disease, addiction, poverty, lawlessness. You got the ability to dominate these spirits because the Most High God commanded you to rule over them and subjugate them. But let me show you how Russell Simmons planned to have your children and your grandchildren and the children of this age. And listen, for any of mine that's listening, you don't have no excuse, y'all. Y'all don't have no excuse. Y'all know. We came up in the streets. Listen, we have never laid down hip hop. This ain't hip hop. We will never lay down hip hop. We will never lay down the performance arts and the fine arts because we are procreators made. We are the procreator made in the image of the Most High God. And God created music. God created fashion. God created us in our sanctuaries. God created worship. God created instruments and individuals who can create instruments. Them niggas is the second and third generation of fallen rebels who want to also pick up instruments and do music, who want to also create systems of worship, who want to also create fashion, who want to also go into business. Our job is to make sure that there is no question between what we do and what they do. When it comes to worship, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to family, when it comes to recreation, when it comes to business, everything that got an income stream attached to it. Not only do we have an industry, our industry is totally separate. And no Europeans. The dads of Europeans or the offspring of these men. Once again, these people do not belong to us. These people, this is the Western, this is a Greek, this is a Roman. In the Word of God, God says Gog and Magog will end up in the flame of fire with the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. Gog, Greeks, the black Greeks, and Magog, who transformed from black Romans to fair-skinned Romans. Just like Cain was born this and received the mark of Cain for shedding the blood of his brother, then that is the mark of the beast. Wearing out the saints, persecuting and wearing out the saints. Cain started off like this. Cain and Abel were twins. When Cain killed him, God marks Cain in Genesis 4. And for the first time in Genesis 6, God says there are fair-skinned people on the earth. That Noah's children could just look and see the daughters of the fair-skinned Cain. That is climate change. Birthright climate change. Cain was marked to show that he no longer had the birthright. Mark of the beast says you no longer share in the birthright of the Messiah, and you are the serpent seed. That's what the mark of the beast says. It's not a chip. It's not a computer. It's not new. There is nothing new under the sun, says the word of God, including the mark of the beast. And we have thoroughly, for the past 5 years, destroyed all of the deception that they have tried to keep perpetuating the mark of the beast, which is simply the shedding the blood of their brothers. Am I my brother's keeper? Was the question that he asked. Remember, I told you, this game of Jeopardy has been going on since the beginning. Am I my brother's keeper? That's where y'all get y'all game of Jeopardy from. Am I my brother's keeper? God showed him. Oh, okay. My seed are the gatekeepers of their brothers and sisters. My seed. So you just told me you're not my seed. So let me mark you to show everybody that you don't belong to Adam and Eve's children any longer. This is what the mark of the beast means. You are no longer my children, and in the line of Adam and Eve, you are officially in the line of Satan and all of those rebels. Anybody who follows Satan is his seed. That's a spiritual creation of a new line, not a physical. Satan doesn't have the ability. He only has the ability to corrupt, to defile. He doesn't have the ability to create or plant seed. God is the sower. He can only take the seed that God has sown as righteousness and corrupt it and defile it and transform it into his seed. That's where you get their Hollywood's concept of the Transformers from. You have been transformed from righteous, holy, planted seed to corrupted, defiled, lawless, rebels, and he marked the individuals in that family tree. The tree of gnosis, there's that word again. The tree of gnosis and good and evil. The tree of gnosis, the Black Greeks got a word for knowledge. And it's the opposite of the word. God has a word for knowledge too. God had a tree in the garden, and God used the word knowledge in the beginning. He said, when Adam knew Eve. So the consummation of that marriage, God called knowledge. Adam knew Eve, and the two became one. Satan was in a tree called knowledge. That's the KRS-One tree. Knowledge reigns supreme. That's gnosis. Gnosis is not Adam knew Eve, knowledge. Adam knew Eve is wisdom because it honors God. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And the consummation of the marriage is the completion of wisdom. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And commandment keeping and consummating your marriage is the completion of it. This is this is Greek gnosis. Greek gnosis. It's early 80s, y'all. They just introduced crack, and now they're trying to introduce the Beatles lifestyle in Woodstock that Europeans are openly doing for 20 years in the US, all over. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. It's raging. Now they're going to come to the East Coast because it ain't valid if it don't start in the East. It's not valid. It's not valid if it don't start in the East. The sun rises in the East. The Garden of Eden was placed in the East. Babylon and Egypt, it's all in the. Listen, if the Europeans tried to start in the West and come East, it's not valid. Plus, our ancestors was already here and set up shop in the East. We defend the East. The West is our honeymoon vacation. The West is where we go to consummate the marriage. We live our day-to-day lives on the East. We vacate, we party, we celebrate, the vacation homes, that's in the West. The sun sets at the honeymoon. The sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. And when you got wealth, when you're a king, you move around like that. David built a castle in Jerusalem. But when they got married and they went and they had their honeymoon, they didn't sit right. Listen. But after the honeymoon's over, after the vacation over, you come back to the crib. So when Satan wants to challenge what already existed in the United States of America, they had to come up north. They had to come to the east. So it don't matter what nobody say. Nowhere in the world, we don't care what y'all say. Nowhere in the country. Everything that y'all do has its root in what we've done since the very inception of this nation in the Northeast. Because that is always how things have happened on the earth. This is what your industry, your music industry
Before this
is.
court passes judgment, will the four defendants please rise and approach the bench?
Trust me, guys, it's all under control. The judge is my uncle. He'll take the insanity plea. Oh yeah, don't forget my retainer balance.
Okay, understand. So, Rick Rubin and lawyer Cohen. That last name sound familiar, right? Donald Trump's lawyer is Michael Cohen. The lawyer for Donald Trump. So these are all those fake children of Abraham. These the people running around that Revelation told you, I will make them come down and bow down at your feet to know that I have loved you, Philadelphia. The fake children of Abraham in the last days, they control the injustice system. They've written the laws. And the Black Greeks taught them how to do it. To you. What you think Thurgood Marshall is? He's the Black Greek who went to the Supreme Court, who taught them how to write the injustice system against you. What you think Clarence Thomas is? He's the Black Greeks who went to the Supreme Court to teach them how to write the injustice system against you. So they got Michael Cohen in the background. This is lawyer Cohen's cousin, same attorney for Donald Trump. So they have committed a murder. So Michael Cohen and Rick Rubin's, because they know they control the record industry, they control Hollywood, they control the judges, they control the police, they control the prison. They're telling you, in the 80s. Mind you, at the same time, they created the rat police. The rat police. They try to call it hip-hop police. They ain't policing hip-hop. They policing these rap niggas that they created. This whole thing has been a manipulated, planned, carried out game plan. The war on drugs, the prison industrialized complex, the police brutality. So they let their attorney on the skit. He done committed a murder. The attorney said, yo, we control the judge. It's my uncle. He's going to take the insanity plea. Don't worry, you're not going to do life. He just plead to insanity because they know. He telling you, I'm going to get you off. Just make sure you got my bread. Listen, man, they was telling y'all in the 80s. It's 2020, yo. They dropped this in the 80s, yo. That they was going to destroy your family. That they was going to turn your sons into this. And when they got control of your sons like this, your sons would promote their hatred against women. So the feminist movement, you got all of these black chicks running around here. I'm an independent woman. I'm a feminist. Listen, this was only a European thing. Now all of a sudden, black men hate black women. That ain't us. It still ain't us. I'm just showing y'all that this is rap niggas. And rap niggas don't count. They ain't our community. Y'all can keep identifying with them. Y'all can let y'all kids keep identifying with them, and your kids is going to be sacrifices. Your kids going to die in that. Your kids going to be impoverished. Your kids are the sacrificial offering in this system.
Okay, I understand you guys are pleading insanity, claiming demonic spirits possess you to do these hideous
Watch who
murders.
you will see in this video.
Can you please explain to this court how these so-called spirits made you into these raving madmen?
Be a witness as I exercise my exorcism. The evil that lurks within, the sin, the terrorism. Possessed by evil spirits, voices from the dead. I come forth with grave diggers in a head full of dread.
Possessed by evil spirits and voices from the dead. Okay. It's the early 80s.
I've been examined ever since I was semen. They took the sonogram and seen the image of a demon.
I've been examined since I was semen. They took the sonogram and saw an image of a demon. Early 80s. We ain't on this. We ain't never been on this. You know who was on this? Jimi Hendrix. You know who was on this? Russell Simmons. You know who was on this? Sammy Davis Jr., Louis Armstrong. All of your jazz musicians was high 33rd degree Freemasons. This is Freemasonry. Gnosticism is Freemasonry. The worship of the Egyptian gods is Gnosticism, is alchemy. If individuals run around here promoting the pyramids and the Ankh, they are high priest and priest of Baphomet, Osiris, and Isis. This is where the Germans got their satanic worship systems from, including the popes. This is all Nation of Islam promotes. All of these individuals are in the Nation of Islam. This is what dominated the street corners. The Nation of Islam is rap. The Nation of Islam was created so that they could have it created a new narrative designed specifically to target this. I'm telling you what I'm going to show you what his nephew said and what Russell Simmons said. I'm just relaying to you after the fact what my dad whooped me for, and he ain't had no clue that this was going on at the time. Remember, LL Cool J is living the same lifestyle, but on the surface, he's not promoting it. That's called in the closet. That's called occult, hidden. Jay-Z is living the same life. But when you aren't promoting that to the public, is called down low. Down low is occult, hidden. This is where you get your word culture from. So the lifestyle of living a lie on the down low and hiding your true intentions is the definition of culture. So when you say, yo, I identify with my African culture. I identify with my African American culture. You just stating to them, and they laugh at you. They laughing at you. They like, look at this little blind. They call you sheeple, goyim, blind sheep. They laugh at you. They gave you these little buzzwords so you can let them know that you ignorant. And then they cash in off of sacrificing you, and then they make careers off of offering you up in your ignorance to the Greeks, to the Romans, who want to live a lie of superiority. But without the system, without the hidden, without the cult, this is why God said, have nothing to do with the worthless deeds of darkness, but expose them. He said, all you got to do is expose them. They don't have no power. They don't have no truth. They don't have no wisdom. They don't have no light. They can't do nothing. Once you expose them, it's a wrap. The only power in the occult is the deception. The lie is the power. That's why they do spells. To hide the true ritual, the true nature of that which they're saying. God said, all you got to do is expose them, yo. The problem with my pops and my pops' generation is they got access to truth, but they ain't exposed nothing. They just lived according to their principles. But my pops didn't actively go out there and figure out what the streets was doing to deceive us and the snares that they just like, listen, I'll whoop your behind if you go get involved with this. Mom, on the other hand, Mom was doing the fruit inspection. By their fruit, you shall know them. So Mom was like, I don't care what they say out their mouth. Based off of the actions and their lifestyle is going to determine if we going to mess with them or not. So it was because of my mom's spirit that when I got in the streets, when my pops wasn't there to protect me, it was my mom's fruit inspection spirit and me knowing like, listen, yo, I know what my mom sacrificed to make sure that I was exposed to truth and that she only gave me that which was true. I can't go out here and live a lie. I would dishonor my mama. If I go live the same life of a child that don't know nothing about none of this, they got to receive true word. If I go out here and live a lie based off of what these children out here that ain't never been exposed to none of this do, I dishonor my mama. I dishonor the fact that she walked away and started a whole nother school for me and my sister. You can ask my sister Terry, yo. My mom physically went down to the school. She physically went, took me. I was 2 years younger than the nigga that was an older white dude was mistreating my sister, and the teachers was allowing it to happen. The teachers are allowing an older white boy to bully and mistreat, pick on my sister day after day after day. And the teachers and all of them, they with it. They cool. They ain't saying nothing. This little boy just, sending my sister home crying every day. He'll put his hands on her, push her, everything. Recess, he on her all day, every day. My sister crying, everything. Teachers ain't got, see no evil, hear no evil. She the only little black girl. They like, this is a Seventh-day Adventist Christian school. My mom, my pops physically take me down to the school. Yo, we know where the niggas live. You got to come out of school, nigga. We from Trenton, New Jersey, homie. We from Trenton, New Jersey, son. We are the fighting hands capital of the world, baby. You got to go. Y'all niggas walk home from school. Yo, my pop took me. My mom's told my pops, listen, you want to come back in this house, you better handle that. If you want to have a good night's sleep, you better handle that. I'm going to handle the school. I'm going to handle the teachers. You better go take your son and handle that little boy who want to be a bully and jump on my daughter. I don't care nothing about your Bible, your church. No, nothing. Listen. God ain't tell us to turn the cheek. He told the lost Hebrews to turn the cheek. He said, I will require an accounting for every drop of blood. And if you let these little European boys, remember, the first generation European is this. Don't get it twisted. If you let these little European boys in first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade have their way, when they 15, 16, 17, 18, just smacking your daughter around ain't enough. Just verbally abusing your daughter is not enough. They've been doing it since they was in the first and second grade. The spirits that control them always graduate. By the time if you don't deal with the European, like God dealt with Satan, did God allow Satan to do what he wanted in heaven? Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels and cast them out. Y'all living a lie spiritually because y'all identify with the lost Hebrews. You live a lie so your daughters get violated, disrespected. Your wives, who are the attack. The dragon was wroth with the woman and went to wage war with the remnant of her seed, who keep the commandments of God. That is the only people who are under attack on earth. I'm going to say this to y'all straight up. The only people who are under attack on earth are the woman. The dragon was wroth with the woman and her seed. The dragon was wroth with the woman and went to wage war. So this coward loses in heaven. He don't go to take the war back to Michael. This is the spirit of the European spirit. The dragon was wroth with the woman. Did the woman cast him out of heaven? No. If you follow Satan, you can't help be a coward. If you follow Satan, if you do not, let me say this. If you do not follow the everlasting covenant, you can't help to be a coward. You can't help to destroy women and children. Everybody who does not follow the everlasting covenant is an enemy of the family, of women and children. Everybody. And if you haven't made your decision, you are a threat. This is why God said, all scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable. It will bring forth fruit and is profitable for correction, for reproof, and instruction in righteousness. What? All scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. So then he comes back and says, yo, you still tossed about by every whim of doctrine? He said that because you ain't studied to show yourself approved. You an infant follower. He said you still on milk. He said, I ain't even give you tablespoon because I can't. This is Paul. And you trying to follow the Hebrew model. Paul is rebuking the Hebrews who have rejected the Messiah, killed the Messiah. And he like, you still infants. I can't give you real food. You killed the Messiah. They the niggas who got to turn the other cheek. But God said there's another group out there. I have not come to call the righteous, but the wicked. First to the Hebrew, then to the Gentile. If you try and get to God through the Hebrews and the Gentiles, you're going to be lost. If you follow the righteous model, which is in the word of God too, just nobody preaches it. Nobody teaches it. Nobody. Everything that I give you is because these individuals studied, then trained us and held us accountable. So my mom tell my pops, yo, why it freeze? Yo, why it freeze?